What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk, reporting for the first time from an actual game day environment. I was here at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln covering the Northern Iowa versus Nebraska game, obviously. More on that in a little bit, but gonna start things out with the big story, I think, from today in college football. Georgia escapes Lexington, Kentucky with a 13-12 win. Obviously, when you're only scoring 13 points, their offense struggled at times. They were able to actually overcome what was once, I think, a 9-3 deficit in that game. I was kind of keeping an eye on it while I was covering this game. So Georgia escapes with a win, and then LSU also escapes Columbia, South Carolina with a win as well. So a couple of really close games in the SEC. Two teams that a week ago faced off both lose this week. Kentucky looking to bounce back from the loss to South Carolina. They did so. They impressed, especially defensively against the Bulldogs. Didn't quite have enough. South Carolina, meanwhile, trying to roll on that momentum, but they did not against LSU. Georgia and LSU get a couple of SEC wins. It's never easy to win in the SEC. That showed this week. And so they get a couple of very important wins, although the Bulldogs look a little bit vulnerable for that number one spot, especially with how Texas is looking. They rolled to another big win today over UTSA. However, Quinn Ewers did go down with an injury. Of course, Arch Manning stepped in and looked the part. He delivered for Texas today, and it was a big win for the Longhorns. Another team that bounced back in a big way before I get to my next point, Notre Dame, 66-7 win in West Lafayette over the Purdue Boilermakers. They put to bed any doubts that had come to the forefront after last week's embarrassing loss at home to Northern Illinois. And so the Irish are right back in the win column, and they're looking like a team that can actually play well. Maybe it was just a letdown from that win in College Station the week before last year. Maybe they're a hot and cold team. We'll kind of have to wait and see the rest of this season. I think they have Louisville next week or in a couple of weeks. We'll see a little bit more then. Big wins, top 25 prove-it type wins for Missouri and for Kansas State. Both of those teams put together big wins. Mizzou with a 27-21 win over Boston College, big win at home. And Kansas State on Friday night with a dominant win. I think of all the teams this week, I'm giving my team of the week. I'm going to start this week. I'm giving it to Kansas State. It would have been Kentucky if they could have pulled that upset, but instead we're going with the Kansas State Wildcats, a 31-7 win over Arizona. Big game for Avery Johnson, and shout out a Lewis Central graduate for my coverage area here at the Council Bluffs Non-Braille with a touchdown reception in that win. Braden Lofton, great job. And then finally, looking at the team that I covered here today, I mean, I was actually focused on Northern Iowa for the papers that are kind of sister papers with the Non-Braille in Iowa, over in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, those areas over there in northeastern Iowa. Northern Iowa looked tough. They went on a 16-play, 62-yard drive to start this game. Took up 10 minutes and 8 seconds of game clock. But after that, they weren't able to get any points on the board. They got a field goal on that drive, and that was it for the game. Nebraska's defense looked really good in this one. They did struggle at times against the rush. Aiden Dunn, the quarterback for the Panthers, was able to get a couple of big runs. Think popped him off 5 yards per carry, just about. Offensively, Dylan Raiola continues to play at a caliber that I think really, debatably, hasn't really been matched except for by Avery Johnson at Kansas State. So these Huskers have continued their hot start. They're going to have a big game up next back here at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln against the Illinois Fighting Illini, who improved to 3-0 following their win over number 19 Kansas last week. So a lot to talk about in college football. If there's anything that I missed in this quick little rundown before I get out of here at Memorial Stadium, I'll add that to the video.
Adding this in as I watched some NFL football on Sunday, forgot to mention, got to give a lot of credit to Alabama for the way that they controlled the game against Wisconsin. The Crimson Tide, I think, lived up to expectations in that game, but I think they won that game a bit more comfortably than most people in college football thought. The Crimson Tide dominated 42-10. Another huge game by the freshman receiver, 17-year-old Ryan Williams. A big game for Jalen Milroe. I think putting aside any doubts that this team is the same type of team that Nick Saban had, Kalen DeBoer is leading this Crimson Tide team well. And Alabama really decided to let a naysayer know on the road. Jalen Milroe living up to that acronym, but big win for Alabama as kind of the last thing in a good day of college football.
But that is all for this episode of College Football Talk with Peter Burnett. I'm signing out from Memorial Stadium in Lincoln. Peace.